Hi, I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. Today, we are speaking about having it all, success and love. My guest today is Makhosi Nejeser, who is an authentic African shaman specializing in personal development and energetic alignment. She is a human potential expert and spiritual ascension master, and her full bio is available below in the show notes. I am so excited to have this conversation today because we met several months ago and just clicked, and we were so excited to have this conversation. And here we are. Welcome, Makhosi.
Oh my gosh, Marie Elizabeth, I'm so excited for this. I know we've been waiting to make this magic happen, and we're finally here.
So happy. So you are a woman who has created amazing success and has a beautiful relationship. And so that was kind of the seed of this conversation. Is there's this perception among powerful women that somehow we can't always have both. Was that easy for you to create, or did you have to go through your own journey to be able to have it all?
I could say for sure that this was not by accident. Everything just clicked and was magical. You know, both of us have had to really do a lot of deconditioning around what we believed was possible, what our different roles would be. And it's actually changed quite a bit over the years as our relationship has evolved. But for both of us, it really boils down to honest communication and intentionality.
Huge. And I love that word deconditioning. Can you say a bit more about that? Because I think that's a key component to it too, is not coming in with set roles, but really allowing the relationship and the business to reveal what's aligned.
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many things that I've had to decondition, and also that he has had to let go of as well. Some of those ideas are things like, well, what does it mean to be a wife? What does it mean to be a mother? Who am I actually, right? Who am I here to be in the world? And does my idea of what it means to be a wife, does that fit into the vision that I have for myself? And if not, is that actually serving me? So one of the things that I've seen because I work with so many female entrepreneurs, many of them in their own relationships or desiring to also have relationships, so many of them struggle with the weight of, oh, well, in order to have it all, I have to be it all. I need to be there for every soccer game for my kids. And I need to, be the one who prepares my husband's breakfast every single day. And I need to also be the one leading this incredible company and showing up and so on and so forth. And you can have it all, but it is literally impossible for any of us to always be it all at the same time. We have to learn how to, number one, be honest and realistic about what we can do and what's actually aligned for us to do. And also make room for what is actually in each person's wheelhouse, right? I've come to accept that I am not the most nurturing person in my house or in my partner. That's not my jam, but my husband is quite nurturing, right? He is that person who is constantly thinking about, what is needed right now and how are you feeling? And he's kind of cuddly. So letting it be okay that, that is his nature, and it's okay for him to be that and express that. And it's okay for me not to be that, but how do we meet each other and still honor each other's needs and desires?
And I'm hearing you say also honor each other's native wiring. not expecting each other to be different or conform to some role if your native wiring is different than that, right?
The other thing as well that I would say that's really been a key shift is shifting away from roles and moving into responsibilities.
Yeah.
So we have had and still continue to have various conversations about what is it in the household? Like, these are the things that we need to do as a couple, as parents now, as a family. These are the variety of things that need to be taken care of, and who has the innate qualities and also the desire to take on those responsibilities.
Yeah.
And some of those things go outside of the traditional gender roles, right? That looks like, both my husband and I cook and cook well. And so it can be a matter of, okay, well, who wants to take responsibility of it, of the meals? I take responsibility of making sure that we all eat. However, in that doesn't mean I'm the one who does all the cooking. I just take the responsibility for it. And if I need support from him, I can say, hey, could you make lunch and dinner on this day? Right. And then he is able to chip in. But we never are at a place where it's like, well, nobody's going to eat because there's nothing to eat because neither one of us took responsibility for it.
I love how fluid that feels. It feels nimble and fluid in a certain way, which you don't always think of as being key.
The other piece about it feeling nimble is, and maybe an aspect I don't talk about, is that in our conversations, when one person takes responsibility for a specific area, they then get the sovereignty to choose how that gets accomplished in our relationship. So for me, there's been periods of time where, I really didn't want to cook. So maybe I spent money on meal plans, or I would, invest in, oh gosh, what are they called? Not the meal plans, but the delivery boxes.
So the boxes with the ingredients.
Yeah. Finding different ways to still fulfill on it. But ultimately, I'm the one who has the responsibility and gets the power and the say to do what actually works for me, which has been very freeing.
Yeah. And I can imagine, whatever it is that he's holding, I mean, it's freeing from both of you not to feel. Am I right in assuming you're not getting constantly checked up on?
Yeah. I mean, that came as a result of constantly checking up. Which, well, I think that when we don't feel secure in something being taken care of, maybe I'm not the only one in having a tendency to automatically go to trying to control the things that you're trying to get off of your plate.
Well, yeah, I know nothing about that.
But it's like, well, all of a sudden, I didn't want to do it, but now here I am, like, doing all of the bills, right? It kind of came out of that necessity of, well, number one, I don't want to constantly have to check in with, like, hey, is it all right if I spend $100 on our meals for a meal plan versus groceries, right? Like, it's just so small.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's freed us up to be able to have bigger vision conversations instead of like constantly nagging each other to make sure that something gets done.
Yeah. I want to hear more about how you navigate that. Like, do you have a weekly meeting or a quarterly meeting, or is it sort of you on the fly by text? Like, what makes it work?
Yeah. So we have different meetings, quote unquote meetings, right? We have for specifically food because it's such a big topic. And my son also is quite picky in what he wants to eat and will or won't eat. And so we had to get him engaged. So now he also gets to be part of the conversation each week of what are we going to eat. And I use a program that has recipes and we just go through and click, and it makes it really easy and a little bit fun.
Yeah.
But that way we're all kind of engaged. I'm responsible, but I've brought them in on that. As it goes for bigger vision, we used to be in a monthly kind of bigger vision conversation. Now it's much less. Now it's more like quarterly. And then we have a yearly, every New Year's Eve, we actually come together and kind of set the vision for what we want for ourselves and what this next iteration together and as a family, like what does that look like? Honoring both of our needs, because we're kind of opposite in a lot of ways, which a lot of couples are.
It's true. They are.
Yeah, I think once I let go of the idea that he should be like me and also vice versa, and started honoring that, hey, your way of doing things and, you know, what matters to you is just as valid and right and good as the things that matter to me. Like, I'm a person who loves to spend money on clothes and jewelry and makeup. And he is a bit more of a saver. He, you know, likes to feel that security of money in the account. So how can we come together with a vision that honors both of those things and then put in place things that actually allow for those visions to come to life? And that's kind of a nitty gritty.
No, that's a great example, because it's super common for one person in a partnership to be more of a spender and one to be more of a saver. And then they can get, you know, don't cramp my style. We don't have enough. I'm nervous, right? So it can get fraught. I mean, that's a common topic. And so to drill down a little further, like, do you keep a separate account that's your play money? Do you have the joint? Like, whatever you're comfortable sharing. But I think it's useful for people to hear successful women talk about how they navigate finances in a partnership, especially if they don't work together. You know, they have different work, so they're sort of contributing in different ways, the partners. I think that'd be helpful if you could share a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been together for 14 years total. We literally, as soon as we got together, we moved in together. So we've immediately went into, okay, how do we do this thing together? Because we had been friends for a year before that, and we didn't want to wait, really. So originally, it wasn't such a big deal because we were both kind of broke.
Not right after school, right? Right.
We were in college.
He was still in college, guy.
Yeah, we were making like $8 an hour. Literally $8 an hour coming together. So at first we did like the 50-50 thing where, you know, you pay this, I pay this, 50-50 everything. And that was okay for a little while, but then we were on two different tracks. He down the trade route. So he started becoming an electrician, and he was getting a raise every year because he was in the union. And so there started to be this really big disparity between what he was making and what I was making. So we decided at that time, which has worked still to this day for us, that we look at what our expenses are as a whole, and then we adjust the amount that we put into a joint account for our together expenses proportionately, right? So if, you know, I'm making a smaller amount than he is, he will end up putting more in, and vice versa. So that's worked out really well for us because, number one, we are both contributing to our together lifestyle, but we have separate accounts for our own, like we can do whatever we want with that money without having someone check in. And well, it wasn't very sexy when he was buying me a birthday present from that.
From the short account. That's just not that hot. Yes.
No, it wasn't hot at all. Like, oh no, I got to see exactly how much you spent on my birthday present and I'm judging you. Not fun at all. Not fun at all. But also our relationship has gone through drastic changes. There was that period where he was making significantly more. I was still making some. And then, when we decided to become parents, he was making a certain amount and I was a stay-at-home mom.
Oh.
And then there's been another period where, my income significantly increased. Then, the whole pandemonium happened and my business.
You mean the whole doing
2020?
That payment. Okay. You don't understand training and all of that. You mean after that?
Yeah, no, I mean the pandemonium we experienced.
That's the big pandemonium. Got it.
Because of the nature of his work, his income went down because
yours went up.
And mine drastically increased.
Yeah.
So now we're in a place where he does well. And also my business does very, very well. It's growing, but mine is, at a very high 7-figure, plus level. And so now we have this arrangement where I'm putting this amount and he's putting this amount. It does require that we be really honest about what is the lifestyle that we are both agreeing to. Because part of me is like, yes, let's go get what's the biggest house we can find, right? But that's not really what is the most aligned for us. So we kind of have to partner on that.
It's probably, I'm chuckling because Patrick and I are similar in that way. He's like more of a grounding kind of reality-based presence. Like, do we really need that thing? Or do we, oh, you've scheduled all these trips. Like, how about we stay home for this? Right? Kind of a bit more tending to the home, the hearth, the fabric of the relationship in a grounded way. And I'm kind of the ignition and the fire and the energy of it, right? In a certain way. I'm more the movement and he's more the ground, right? And so it sounds like you two have a similar kind of partnership in that way.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it just comes down to honoring who you are. And like, I've accepted that I am a person who would much rather figure out how to make $5 a day instead of sacrificing my latte to save the $5 a day, right? Where my husband might be like, well, do I really need a $5 latte a day? Like, he's quick to just cut it out. He's like, I'm not really into it anyway. So it's been that like acceptance of self, acceptance for who he is, and not trying to force one another to be something that we're not.
That feels so key to this question of having it all. It's like having it all doesn't mean you find the carbon copy of you, and that's how you have it all. It's like you make the all. I'm trying to figure out the wording, exactly what I'm trying to say, but it's like, it's that acceptance, it's that honoring of difference and partnership that enables the having it all in a certain way. Would that be accurate to your experience?
Yeah. The thing that pops in my head too, that I've noticed, and I'm sure that you've noticed this as well, that I'm always looking at what is it that does keep women from having it all.
Same.
And some of them I've noticed believe that they need to have a different partner. And sometimes that is the case, right? Like I have to say, sometimes that's a thing.
Yeah.
However, this notion of really just accepting who the person is, it doesn't mean that you have to stay with them, but you just accept who they are without trying to change them. One thing that really has been very helpful in accepting who my husband is really understanding what he values and how to communicate in his values. So I realized that when I would go to share my vision, and I would have like all of these fantastical dreams, and I'd be sharing from a very emotional and passionate place. And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds great. But what's the reality of that?" So then I started just communicating my vision to him in actuality. Like, what would it cost? Like, I recently decided, I was like, we are not spending any more time doing laundry. So I was like, I want us to have someone come pick up the laundry, fold it, like clean it, all the things, and then bring it back.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. It wasn't until I actually like got the numbers and I was like, hey, by the way, this is only going to be about $100 a week for us to do. And then I also communicated how it would benefit him. Because instead of spending my entire Sunday doing laundry, I actually have time where we could go and, do the beach days or do the things that, that you want to do. And I would be much more rested and much more pleasant to be around.
That's a good listening point, by the way.
Yeah.
Like you're actually going to enjoy my company a lot more if I.
Right, so then he's like, it's a no-brainer then at that point, because it's like, am I willing to exchange $100 more a week in order to have this entire day access and all of the other benefits that come with like living in a relaxed and stable home?
No, that is such a great example and I want to highlight the piece about communication, because I teach a lot on communication. That's a lot of what ends up being what I transform for people, because very often we have a certain way that we transmit information, that we see things, that we envision, which is not necessarily the way that our partner best receives information or can make decisions from. And so to do the work to understand each other, and this goes both ways, everything I'm saying goes both ways, that when you understand each other's values and you honor each other's ways of being, then to communicate in a way that actually is more likely to be heard and received and able to be acted on is best for everybody. I'm sure there's times where he has come to you with numbers and you've been like, I don't see why this matters. And he's got to paint a little more of the fancy for you to get it, right? Like, so I'm sure it goes both ways. And so I'm so glad that you highlighted that piece and how effective, I see that over and over too, how effective it is to talk about both, it's going to cost us this, like the cost benefit ratio, basically. It's going to cost us this, and this is what we're going to get out of it. Is that worth doing? And then when you bring it down to that level, it just, then it's a clear yes or no, and there's no bluff around it,
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that you put that way. It's so clear that way. And like, duh.
Right. But if we don't do it,
yeah.
Right. Well, we don't, that's part of my gift is I translate stuff into super practical and easy to understand ideas. So thank you for noticing. But we don't natively do that. That's a learned skill, And so I really want to highlight for folks, if that's not how your relationship is currently moving, if you find yourself clashing on certain things, because you're building your business and you want to free up more of your time or whatever, and maybe your partner doesn't understand spending for certain things that you've always done or they've always done, even, that this could be a very easy and practical way to make it clear or figure out what each other's values are, and then communicate with each other according to those values so that it's easier to understand. Yeah. I want to shift a little bit and talk about alignment and, what you notice as a shaman, as someone working deeply in people's spiritual and, inner space. Among the women you work with, what are some of the biggest impediments? And how can they work through it?
Yeah, there's quite a few, but the big ones. Well, let's start with the biggest one that I see. So many of the women that I'm seeing right now are being called into leadership in some way, shape, or form, whether that's, as an influencer or running their own company or being a leader in their company. And it makes me so inspired, and I'm so happy that is opening up more and more. But I think the thing that I see that holds women back from acceptance of that is the ability to receive support. So many are, like, from the time they come into this world, they're being taught that there are people around them that are there to help them, that are there to support them, that will, make sure that things get taken care of so that they can focus on the things that they need to do. And from the time we are little girls, most of us are being trained how to take care of everyone else, even to the detriment of our own health, our own sanity, our emotional well-being, and so on and so forth. And very often sometimes it's not even noticed or even something that anyone is attached to. We just put the meaning on, like, if I don't do those things to take care of everyone, I'm a bad partner, mother, friend, whatever.
Yeah.
But these are like the things that are kind of, it's left unsaid and unspoken. And so many women really don't know how to allow themselves to receive support or just receive.
And to ask, to not, Patrick, here's an example, like a grounded example. I have had in the past a habit of waiting until I'm completely frazzled and at my wit's end before I ask him to help me with something. And by that point, I'm so jaggedy, he doesn't know whether to attend to my emotional state or do the thing I'm asking for. He's kind of like deer in the headlights, like, because he can sense I'm fucked up. And then he can also sense, oh, but she seriously needs this thing to be done. And he doesn't know which to do first. So he has often, and he had to do this for a few years till I got the hang of it. He will often say, hey, you don't have to wait till you're frazzled to ask for help. Like, ask sooner when it's still easy. And that was such a revelation for me that I took it on as a practice. Like, what can I ask for before I'm frazzled about it? And I really looked at my life and I started asking sooner. And it just works so much better that way. And I'm not expecting him to read my mind, because that's the other thing I think we do. It's like, well, they should know. Trash has to be taken out. The can is full. Like, how do they not see that? It's like, no, like, if they don't see it, it's because they're focused on something else, and that's okay, And it's okay to ask, like, hey, please take out the trash, like, without the, it's full, you dumbass, without that energy on it. that we can sometimes have, right? I'm holding all these things and you've got one thing, right? Like, I mean, we've all been guilty.
For sure.
And it's just not the most effective way to motivate somebody. So I love that you brought that in, because I've noticed that as well, that reception, that openness to receive, and that understanding that receiving and asking for more support doesn't mean that we're slacking on the job. Like, we don't have to prove, well, I'm doing these other 15 things, so could you do that? Like, just cut that whole part of the sentence off and just ask for the things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So true. Like, I mean, I did that. That was, that for sure was my reality. And I'm not saying that I'm completely perfect at this. It is a continual, like, coming back to it consciously.
Yes.
And having to check myself often about, hey, are you waiting until the last minute? Are you actually? And I'm not always. Yeah. The answer is I am not always. Yeah. The other thing I noticed too about this that I had to let go of, some of the conditioning, was, well, at first I started practicing learning how to ask for and receive support, but then I would try and control.
Oh God, yes.
That would happen, right? How the dishes needed to be washed, or when the dishes needed to go in, or in what order, and exactly how they needed to be stacked. And yeah, that is not conducive to anyone getting what they want, right? Because then you're still basically having to do it because you're trying to control the person doing it. And also they are feeling resentful of, like, hey, I'm actually trying to help and contribute and, make your life better and easier and so on and so forth. And then you're trying to make me fit into a box, right? And
micromanaging thing.
Yeah. So letting go of, I mean, I've been getting really good at, okay, what are all of the ways that I will try to micromanage, and trying to catch myself before doing that, and then letting go of, okay, well, you know what? Did the dishes get cleaned? Okay. If they didn't, well, there's an opportunity to put them in the dishwasher a new way so that they do well, right? It's either a learning opportunity or it got done. So, that's been another level. There's layers.
Huge. Yeah, that's been a huge one for me too. And again, that's something that I feel really lucky with Patrick as a partner, in that he's very clear about his boundaries around that kind of micromanaging. So if I hand something off and then I'm checking up on it, or I'm like trying to control how he's doing it, he'll say, like, you've handed this off to me. Can you trust that it will happen? It's going to happen. It's on my list. It may not be on your timeline, but it will get done by the time it needs to be done. Right. And I have to kind of go, oh yeah, right. Sorry. But he's really great there. And so, if somebody doesn't have a partner that's as communicative or as boundaried in that spot, first of all, we can invite them to be more so like, hey, I really want to hack this thing in myself, my tendency to control. So would you be open to telling me when I feel like I'm controlling, what I come across as controlling, so I can, because I'm not always going to catch it. I don't always catch it, and I practice it. I'm trying to catch it all the time, but I don't always catch it. It's like, hey, can you just let me know if something lands as controlling? Because I'm really trying to get wrap my mind around this pattern. and change it. And so when you invite that becomes a collaboration too, that uplifts both of you because it empowers the partner to speak up and not carry resentment. And it invites, the person who's doing the controlling or the micromanaging or whatever it is that you're wanting to work on as a person. You get the feedback that helps you actually discern when you're doing it,
That's so good. And oh my gosh, how many times, like I didn't see this at first, but as a result of that, there's been so many times where I had in my mind how I thought it should be done or, what the result should be. But when I finally stopped trying to control and micromanage everything, things would get done faster, better. Like, wait a second. I didn't cook it. It was actually more delicious. Like
we don't know every single thing about how everything should be done.
We're not the best at everything.
Inconceivable. But it's like, that I've noticed something similar too, where, they've got access to different information that I don't see. Right. So again, Patrick, sometimes I might see the better way to do something, but often he's an engineer. So he breaks things down in a completely different way than I do and very methodical. Right. And I'm, again, like a fire starter and he's methodical. So there's stuff I miss because I'm moving fast that he kind of can catch. And things get done right the first time, for example, often, as opposed to, maybe being done quickly, but having to be done again.
So guilty.
Same. Yeah. So is there anything, I know you have this awesome, I want to talk a bit about this luxury of less transmission. Can you say a bit about that?
Yeah. So this actually came about a friend of mine, and I were just having this conversation about how delicious it is that we get to experience the luxury of less. And it got us talking about how much of our lives are kind of hidden. I'll give an example of what the luxury of less is. Like today, you text me and said, hey, can we start earlier? Right. And yes, we can start earlier because I live by certain practices in my life where I say no to most things. And so the luxury of less is all about really embracing that less is more, that we get to have it all by doing less and getting really, really clear on what are those things that actually matter to me and like actually being present to those things, going all in on those few things that are really expansive for you and really bring about abundance in your life in a variety of forms. And what does it look like to work through the things that keep you in the cycle of the hamster wheel of I constantly need to be doing more in order to achieve more, experience more, when really the truth is that you get to have it all. You get to have more by letting go, by doing less, by keeping things very simple and honoring space for yourself again and again.
So good. So the link to grab that is down in the show notes. I'm so excited for people to have access to this. Thank you. And do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave folks with?
Yeah, I think the thing that's just really been on my heart is that who we choose as a partner is very important to who we are here to be. That can be either supportive or take away. However, ultimately, even with the best partner, we still have to learn how to communicate properly, learn how to honor yourself and the other in order for you as a unit, you as a family, if that's what you desire to experience, so that all of you can have it all. Because it's not just about you getting it all. It's about, hey, together we can actually experience the things that matter to us in really creative, beautiful ways. But we have to be willing to look at ourselves, to examine our beliefs about what's possible and who we're supposed to be in order to make that happen.
We're gorgeous. Thank you so much. Again, all of Makhosi's information is down below in the show notes. Check her links out, grab that beautiful luxury of less transmission. And until next time, remember that a great relationship in life starts with you.